Hello everyone, my name is Joshua. This is the 62nd video, of my video journal series. Today's date is Saturday, the 11th of April 2026. And I'll start off with how my day's been. My day's been very good, thank you. I went to the shopping center today to buy myself a new pair of Levi jeans. Not these ones that I'm wearing. They're a new pair. They come in, I guess, this dark denim color, and they're the 516 model, I think. But yeah, they're really good. They're really comfy. Hopefully, I'll wear them tomorrow to show you it. But yeah, yeah, I'm very happy with my old fashion, as you may have noticed. But over these last couple of days and weeks, where I've been going to shopping centers, where I've been going to restaurants, cafes, to the city, wherever, I've been trying to use my mobile phone a lot less. Basically, living, I guess, day to day life without the internet, or at least without the internet in public. And it really got me thinking, you know, about what was life like before the internet, so when I went to the shops today, I tried not using Google Maps. Obviously, I still, took calls, text, videos, and photos, because I guess you could still do that sort of thing in like the 90s when you had those early cellular mobile phones or those camcorders or whatever. But I've been trying to like not use Google Maps for everything, because I feel like, in some ways it's extremely useful for navigation, but in other ways, you get distracted from your outside environment and like simple wayfinding. And sometimes Google Maps can just be like extremely confusing, especially when stores have moved locations, or it's taking like 20 years to load. So yeah, I've been trying to, like, I guess, use my phone a lot less, especially for, like, I guess, the internet and Google and all those sorts of things. And really just, I guess, trying to live life, um, you know, before the internet. Yeah, and it really just, yeah, it got me thinking today, about my early childhood, because I've been, I guess, using the internet for quite a while, ever since I was young. It wasn't until I was actually 10 years old before I got my first mobile phone, but I was on the internet maybe when I was like 5 years old at the very least. And so I never really knew what life was like without it. The only time I knew what life was like without the internet was when I went to my grandparents' place. They didn't have any internet, and if we went there for like a week, we just, my brother and I, we used to bring our Nintendo DSs and play on that instead. But yeah, now I couldn't really imagine what life would be like without um, the internet for even a week, because I guess I'm so used to my mobile phone for everything. At least up until recently. Now I'm trying to, I guess, limit that dependency. But yeah, I guess it would be such like a big shock to me if I would have like fully go into it and not used my phone for a year or whatever. I guess like I can use my phone for like calls, text, and recording videos and taking photos. I guess I can use it for like that simple function, but I guess like going on the internet, to look up like a price match, or whatever. Yeah, maybe trying to do that stuff at home instead of on the go. Because I swear to God, if you go to somewhere like JB Hi-Fi, Officeworks, or wherever they do price matching, whenever you go on your phone, they always have like the worst reception, like in the building. I swear to God, like if I'm in the line at JB and I want to price match something, sometimes it takes like a minute for my phone to load up at like a simple Google page. And it's led me to think, is it a conspiracy theory that companies which do price matching, they purposely put like, I guess, bad Wi-Fi coverage in like the checkout lane, or where you, I guess, line up to pay for your items, so then you don't do price matching and you pay full price at that store? Is that a conspiracy theory? Like, anyone who works at like JB or one of those places, can you please tell me, do the managers purposely put bad Wi-Fi reception near the checkout so then people don't price match? Honestly, I don't know, because now I just have to like basically look at that price match at home, take a screenshot, and then when I go to JB, I'll just show them um, that, I guess, barcode or listing, or maybe I'll just call them up online and um, do price matching that way. Because I know JB, um, I'm pretty sure like unlike other places like Officeworks, they do price matching online, but there's certain places where they only do it in store. Anyway, that's enough about price matching. I'm not going to give any more of these companies, I guess, free press without the sponsorship. And I'm not sponsored by any of those companies, by the way. I'm just speaking from personal experience. But I guess it balances out by saying their Wi-Fi is shit. But anyway, um, yes. So, man, I can't really think of a point in my life where I went without internet for like more than a week, which is very sad. But I guess when I go like traveling overseas, I don't use, I guess, the internet that much, at least on my phone, because I use like data roaming plans, so I get very little data, but like pretty expensive. Uh, and now let me bring you to my sponsor. No, I'm not going to do that YouTube trap, right? I'm not going to bring you a sponsor for one of those digital eSIMs or whatever. I'm not saying they're bad or anything. It's just that I only got like what like single digit subscribers, as if they want to like sponsor me anyway. But I don't want this series to be a for profit one. It's strictly, I guess, strictly, what would you call it? Not for profit. It's strictly my views, and I'm not going to get any multi-billion-dollar corporation in the way. Insert Wayne's World reference. But anyway, um, man, what was I even talking about? That was just such a long tangent. I was talking about. Man, I'm really gonna think about what the hell I even speak, because I often deviate from the subject so much. Alright, so let's rewind. I was talking about um, digital. Oh, yes. So, yeah, the only time I don't use, I guess, the internet on my phone as much is when I'm overseas, because I get like a data roaming plan, and I have to, like, I guess, conserve as much data as I um, am allowed, which is like a very small amount, maybe enough to like make a few um, Google searches or maybe watch a YouTube video. But I usually just reserve it for like emergency purposes. So um, yeah, or maybe like YouTube Music, for instance, or Spotify or one of those apps that I can logically and reasonably see as like a wise investment on my small pool of roaming data. But yeah, apart from when I go overseas, um, I don't really yet have like that sort of break from my mobile phone. I guess in some ways I do have like a mobile phone addiction. Not early stages, what I'm talking about. I've been using a mobile phone for like 10 years, which may not seem that long, but I got my first mobile phone in 2016. And, I think I might have mentioned that already, who knows, but, um, you know, I've been using the internet for, I guess, since I was 5 years old, at the very least. I had an iPad when I was around 5 years old, so yeah, I would have been using the internet. Maybe even like when I was like 3 or 4 years old, using my family's Windows XP laptop. Could have been around then. But anyway, so I've been using I guess, technology for quite a while, and so yeah, I like apart from me traveling overseas, I can't really think of like any other instances where I go without you know I guess my phone, or at least doom scrolling social media or Google or any other apps like that for an extended period of time. So yeah, I guess in some ways, um, as of I guess these last couple of days and weeks, I've been really just trying to I guess limit that mobile phone usage and use my time towards like things that I enjoy, like reading, playing a little bit of video games, but most importantly, trying to get some sleep, and I guess like branch out into my other hobbies and interests, because um, I feel like yeah, just I guess our like younger generation, we don't really know what like life was like before the internet, when you had to like I guess navigate on your own. And people make it like seem it was like the ancient times. And I guess in some ways, when we look at the past, we think to ourselves, man, like everything was so different. How did we survive back then? But then you realize, well, like back then, I guess everyone was used to it, sort of thing. And when I guess put away my mobile phone, I was like, you know what? Like in some ways, navigation's a little bit easier because when you go on Google Maps, you're just like flooded with like a hundreds of businesses, that all pops up at once when you zoom in, and all this like unnecessary information. Um, but I guess like if you were to just you know find your way to the local station, you wouldn't need like so much, going on, or so much, I guess, clutter that is on Google Maps nowadays. I feel like, even just like getting out a very simplistic map of your local area and just trying to find like the local railway station will be a lot easier in some aspects. Or just, I guess, using wayfinding to your advantage. Look at, I guess, the street signs, the highway signs. Usually they'll point you towards like the nearest suburb, or they'll say, hey, this station is this way, sort of thing. And that's like, I guess, the beauty of like wayfinding. That is, if you have like effective wayfinding around your area. I know where I live, it's pretty okay. I know how to like go to the shops, the bus stop, the station. That's because I've been living in the area for a bit. But I guess for anyone that's new, you have to like use Google Maps, and sometimes Google Maps can take forever to load, and by the time it loads, you're like already late to your destination, or you already missed the bus, sort of thing. Excuse me. Excuse me. I don't know why I'm burping so much. I just had like a salad not too long ago, but yeah. So yeah, in some ways, like I don't need to use like Google Maps for absolutely everything. And I guess when I'm overseas, I do like save my data, my limited roaming data for um, Google Maps usage, and just making like some, I guess, um, Google searches. But whenever I'm like at the shops, for instance, somewhere where there's actually like decent wayfinding, and they tell you where all the stores are, and they've got like those kiosks where you can just like type in the store that you want to go to, and it will give you directions. I've been trying to like use more of that, and you know, in some aspects, I've been trying to, I guess, motivate myself to not like make calls on my phone, but to use like one of those free payphone machines. Because here in Australia, we've got all these Telstra payphones, which nobody uses. But now they're all for free. They made it free like a couple of years ago, and obviously now everyone just makes calls on their mobile phones. Um, they text on their mobile phones. But I'm like, it'd be interesting if I just like make calls on a payphone, because obviously you don't have to pay for them anymore, at least here in Australia or near where I live. No, it's nationwide. It's nationwide for the Telstra payphone booths, and um, yeah, I just like I think it's going to be the next hipster thing. I'm pretty sure I said this earlier on in the series that using like those free payphones, or just like payphones in general, it's going to be the next hipster thing. When people like, it's like how people today are buying like vinyl records using old technology, sort of thing. Using payphones is going to become the next, I guess, big retro thing, and then you'll see like lines of people wanting to use like an old payphone. And if you walk around, the Rocks in Sydney, right, which is like this, like, I guess, like historic area of Sydney near Circular Quay, they got all these like gorgeous payphone booths, like the ones that you see in London, those like red ones. And sometimes when I walk by, I just like call myself on those payphone booths. Like I type in my phone number, and then my mobile phone rings, and I'm like using it as like a walkie-talkie. I do that for fun because I have nothing else better to do in my life. But um, and I just find it enjoyable. And especially I guess if you live in like a place like London, for instance, where you got those iconic red payphone booths that have been slowly dwindling in numbers. Um, and it's a fun tourist thing. And there are iconic parts of cities like New York City, London, here in Sydney, the Telstra ones, um, and they're for free here in Sydney and here in Australia, I should say, because I remember they advertise on the the booths themselves, like free calls nationwide. And obviously everyone's like confused, saying why are you calling from a payphone booth? I'm like, because it's the new hipster thing. I want to start that trend. And I guess in some ways, they're beneficial if someone needs like medical attention or if there's an emergency. I guess you should always use whatever um, phone you have closest. Obviously, you should use your mobile phone for an emergency. But if someone doesn't have a mobile phone and there's an emergency, they can always use that Telstra payphone booth. Um, and I know when the service was paid, that they'll allow you to make free phone calls if it's like 000, because obviously you're not going to charge money to make an emergency phone call. It's kind of like a scummy move, but um, so even when they were paid, around like a decade ago, they still allowed you to do free emergency phone calls. But now, people say, oh, phone booths, pay phone booths are irrelevant. Well, not really. They're useful for emergencies basically, and it's part of accessible design. Accessible design is like infrastructure design, so you don't have to use your phone, and it's like accessible to all, at least mobile phone, cellular mobile phone. It's inclusive to all people, even the small percentage of society who don't own or use a mobile phone. And I guess like it would be really cool if I see like other countries overseas adopt that sort of thing. Like if I'm able to make a phone call in Japan to my relatives in Australia when I'm like overseas. Um, Maybe if they do like free international calls on those payphones, it'll be really cool, because I don't want to pay like exorbitant fees for like data roaming or calls or anything like that. And I've been to Japan, specifically around the Tokyo area, and I've seen those like iconic green um, telephones that they have in the payphone booths. I haven't used them because I didn't have any reason to, but they're like an interesting part of the city. Um, and something that when I think of Tokyo, it's like one of the first thing that pops into my mind is those iconic green phones. But anyway, so this is a Saturday video. I can go on for a little bit more. Yeah, so life before the internet. Wow, I can't like. I really just like mentioned about, I guess, all the stuff that the internet and mobile phones has made nearly irrelevant, but in my eyes, I see value in it. I guess like you know in some ways, I feel like with limitation there comes creativity. And some days when I'm like, just sitting in bed, just not doing anything, not even looking at my mobile phone, um, I feel like I'm a lot more in like a creative mood. Because I feel like when you're bored, you like come up with ways to entertain yourself. Now we just have mobile phones, but if we want to like entertain ourselves, we just like go on the internet, go on YouTube, social media. But I feel like back then, you know, you only had like a very small handful of options. You just um, had the option of, I guess, turning on the TV, seeing what channels are being presented to you. You could bust out a DVD, VHS, or um, Betamax tape or whatever, and watch a movie or part of a TV show. I guess you could like play a game, bust out your Sega Genesis, Mega Drive, Super Nintendo, whatever video game console you have, PS2, and books and maybe a board game if you have someone else with you. But really, there wasn't like a whole lot of, I guess, things to choose from in terms of entertainment. Um, and I guess nowadays, we really take, the ability to watch what we want when we want for free, at least here on YouTube. Um, but like back in the day, when you had, stuff like cable, um, the only things that you could watch on TV were, you know, whatever was scheduled that day. Like if you wanted to watch a TV show that was, I guess, scheduled to air at 9 o'clock, but it's 8 o'clock. You had to wait until 9 o'clock. But now, if I want to watch a TV show, I just bring out my mobile phone, just go on a streaming service or on YouTube, look up the title of that TV show, and just watch it on my phone. I can watch it wherever, even on the go. And I guess back then, home media existed, but um, that's it. You could watch it at home. You couldn't really like take it on the go with you. That was like a luxury sort of thing, unless you had one of those like portable TVs. Um, but even then, those were pretty limited. And yet again, it's like the whole TV thing where everything was scheduled and you couldn't really like choose, if you know what I mean, choose what you wanted to watch. But like now, I can watch anything I want to at any time. And if you were to say that to someone, I guess 30 years ago, they'll be very impressed. But now I feel like I just take it for granted. And in some ways, like when it's that easy, I feel like it kills off that bit of creativity. Um, and just like, yeah, maybe for the older generation, they don't really feel it as much. But for me, you know, I guess when I was younger, before I guess had a mobile phone, I used to read a lot when I was bored because that was pretty much the only option I had. My parents limited my screen time usage, um, and that's why I was just basically forced, quote unquote, forced to read like comics and all that. But I guess that's what developed my love for books and comics and manga because I used to do a lot of reading as a kid. Now I don't do as much reading, but I feel like, if I put away my mobile phone and just try to act like if it's 1996, I'll be reading a lot more. And, I like reading. I like reading a good book because if you look at your phone too much or an electronic screen, it just hurts your eyes. But when you're reading a book or whatever, you get like, I guess, drowsy and bored if you're like reading chapter after chapter. But it's just like a very good and satisfying feeling. It's just that, you know, I guess that's what a mobile phone addiction is. And, you know, I ultimately found that limiting my technology use has been beneficial for my mental and physical well being. I get to walk out in nature a lot more, um, not pay attention to every single little thing that's happening online. Um, and yeah, like I guess it's been really interesting trying to like live like life before the internet. And in some ways the internet has been extremely beneficial. In some ways it has, I guess, had some negative quote unquote consequences. But I guess, you know, with every tool in life, there's always going to be that one idiot that misuses it and ruins it for the rest, or tries to manipulate it and pull these like addicting algorithms in it. It's like a hammer, like a hammer is a very useful tool, but if used incorrectly, it can injure you. With social media and all that, they're incredibly powerful tools, but they can be manipulated towards bad things and divide certain groups, um, and voice very, I guess, negative stuff. And I guess like when we look back on the past, we see it's simpler because obviously technology was far less advanced, but um, I guess because the tools that we had at our disposal in the past were a lot more simpler, you know? Um, and I guess, in some ways things have changed, certainly technology wise, but like in, societal attitude, like back then, if people were bored, on the train or whatever, they just like, get out the local paper, listen to the songs in their Walkman. Um, everyone was pretty much to themselves. But now, people nowadays are just scrolling on their phone on the news, listening to music on their phone. So that, I guess, the activities really haven't changed. Maybe except like mobile gaming, but back then you had people play on their Game Boys and portable devices like that. So Game and Watches. So really, like, whenever I hear this people say, "Oh, it was on their mobile phones nowadays," well, that is only half true. I mean, people back then, pretty much did the exact same shit, but it was just like physical, like getting out the physical paper, getting out the Game and Watch, Rubik's Cube or whatever. But now everyone just does that exact sort of thing on their mobile phone. So really nothing has changed. We haven't like gotten more, I guess, distance, if you know what I mean. Like pretty much everyone like in, the 90s, 2000s were pretty much like to themselves. So I guess in some ways, things have changed. In some ways, things have pretty much stayed the same. I mean, you know, like I said, I really just like looking at like those, I guess, like home videos on YouTube, or just like the camera footage of people recording their daily surroundings in like the 80s, 90s, 2000s. And whenever you just see like, I guess, society, like before, I guess, mass adoption of the internet, or before many people had access to the internet, you pretty much just see, um, regular people just going to their place. If someone's on the train, they just, I guess, keep to themselves or whatever. It's just like, it's kind of like, how do I put it this way? It's like, I don't think it's like as revolutionary as people make it out to seem. It's not like everyone 30 years ago was just like, howdy neighbor sort of thing. Everyone was just pretty much like, just walking, not really chatting to each other. So, yeah, I think the only thing that's changed is just, everything that people used to do now is just on a mobile phone that fits in your pocket. So, I guess that's really been a very long discussion about life before the internet. Certainly it has been for me. I guess yeah, cap this thing off. I just find life before the internet very interesting. And I find that, using my phone a lot less for like things that, I could easily do with basic wayfinding, or, secondhand knowledge is good. Obviously for like emergencies and making and receiving calls, it's really useful. But like, do I need to know um, the exact location of the store where I can just like use the signs that are around me and just make my way there? Just pay attention to the inclusive design around me, inclusive architecture, um, you know, wayfinding. Maybe I'll just do wayfinding. It's a whole nother video because I'm really passionate and like interested. As someone who's interested in trains and public transport, wayfinding is like extremely important. And good wayfinding is just good design in of itself. But yeah. So I guess in some ways I've been trying to like alleviate my mobile phone addiction, but yeah, that's just what I found. And you know, I guess uh, I'd like to hear everyone else's opinions about, I guess, mobile phone usage. And I guess I did a previous entry about screen time, so I feel like some of my points are rehashed. But yeah, life before the internet. I guess it was an interesting time, but I guess that's how society has really changed, and technology-wise, how it's really changed. But anyway, I guess I'll catch you all later, and I'll see you all next time. Bye. See ya. Take care.